Welcome back to the News Hub. I'm Kelsey Hubbard here with David Widener for the half hour, and we have some news on the Chevy Volt. Is General Motors pulling the plug on this one? We have Sharon Terlep joining us from Detroit. Sharon, what is the latest on this electric car that we've been hearing so much about?
Well, GM just told us today that they're going to shut down production for 5 weeks of the Volt. It means they're not selling as many cars as they'd like to. They already have a lot in inventory, and so they're going to stop building them for a while. So they plan to start back up again next month.
Next month, so not too long of a break, but certainly a little bit of a hiatus here. And what mainly, you said just due to lack of enthusiasm, what's really driving this? Is there anything beyond just the sales numbers?
Yeah, I mean, the sales numbers are what, it either sells or it doesn't sell. And right now it's not selling as well as GM had hoped it would. There's a lot of reasons why. A lot of the price is high. A lot of consumers feel the price is high. GM feels that an investigation into the car's safety of the battery, which it was eventually cleared in, hurt the car's reputation. So there's a lot of things going on here, but consumers just aren't as excited about the car.
Sharon, I want to use a lot of bad car analogies right now. Say like GM is applying the brakes to Volt production or downshifting or something like that. But
you see all week, people.
but really, when you talk to consumers or the stories I read about this car, the one major problem is it costs too much. It just costs too much at this stage. And do you think that GM may actually, during this time, rethink its pricing strategy and maybe sell some of these things at a loss to create a loss leader and generate more excitement? Is that on the table?
Well, GM's really in a bind there. I mean, because you're right. I mean, a lot of people who have the cars really like them, so it's not that they're not appealing, but GM already sells these cars at a big loss. I mean, if they could sell them more cheaply, then they would be selling them more cheaply now. So what they did this year is they took a little bit off the price, but to do that, they had to take some content out of the car. So they don't really have a lot of space right now or desire to lose even more on the car than they already are.
And this is sort of happening at a time when we see oil prices so volatile, a lot of people, complaining, and we see this, of course, as we're going into the election year. They're talking about gas prices going up as we head into the year. I mean, has that done anything? I mean, that continual volatility in the oil markets and the energy markets done anything to help this car? I mean, obviously it's not helping enough at this stage, but is that at least a hope that perhaps if oil prices remain high, that people will switch over to the electric cars?
Well, it is, and that would be one of the few upsides for GM if oil prices go up. They did see sales in February go up. They sold more in February than in January, so that might be a sign. Definitely, cheap gas has not helped sales of the Volt.
Sharon, and just to let our viewers know, is this a Volt-only problem, or are we seeing declining sales for Priuses and Leafs and those other electric or hybrid vehicles out there for sale these days?
Well, the only other electric car out there that's even remotely comparable to the Volt is the Nissan Leaf. And so Nissan also, those cars aren't selling in greater numbers so far this year. The difference is that Nissan doesn't have as much of those vehicles already built and on dealer lots as GM does, or at least in supply. So, but in terms of hybrid vehicles, they aren't struggling as much as these much more expensive, more high-tech electric vehicles are.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff when we think about, the oil prices we're talking about. These electric cars seem to have so much momentum, at least, when the car industry was sort of imploding on itself a couple years ago. It's sort of like this was the way it was going to get itself out, developing new cars, developing new products, especially energy efficient ones. And it just seems like that momentum just really hasn't kicked in. I guess Americans just love their big cars.
I think, as people...
Well, they do. And what's interesting is one of GM's hottest sellers now is a small, fuel efficient car. So it's not that they're not succeeding in that. It's just the Volt it's so high profile. It's gotten so much attention. It's so expensive, and it's been a big investment on the part of GM. So they actually are selling small fuel efficient cars, just not this one.
Oh, that's an interesting point.
I think you have to bet right now that the workers at that Volt plant are hoping for higher and higher gas prices to push people to at least start looking at these kind of cars.
They're the only ones out there probably hoping for that, right? Not you and I, that's for sure. Okay, Sharon, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.